Hi, this is Dr. Scott Young, and today we're going to talk about crime and punishment and Gitmo. Coming right up. So again, you can find all of these videos in the playlist called Post NESARA. Okay, so check them out. There's a lot more things in there if you haven't seen the first of them with this. Today we're going to hit the topic of the crime and punishment kind of issues so that you can kind of think through what might happen. Again, this is speculative. No one can know exactly what's going on. But I'm going to throw something out at you here. What's the movie and what is not? Now, I did a longer video on this one, but I just kind of want to throw out at you this term. First off, we always hear this term, what is movie? And when we talk about it from an awakening issue, firstly, movie is really about what is kind of the fake part that you're seeing. Sometimes that stuff is triggering, and most of the time it is. It really kind of gets you pissed off with that too. You need to pause, and trust me, I'm in the same ballpark as you are. I mean, I look at something, I'm like, ah. Now, it doesn't mean everything is the movie. I hear this all the time. What is the movie and what is not? And some people will just say everything is the movie. Now, when we see some of the stupid that's happening, it's affecting us in many ways. Excuse me, in many ways with that too. But let's talk a little bit about some of the point that we might kind of come up with here. When you look at the media, when you look at Hollywood, when you look at government, their narrative is so different than anything that even from right to left wing kind of viewpoints are. Now, I'm not talking about the crazy lefties that do all kinds of silly, crazy stuff, and you just see them all the time with their mask on. It's the whole persona they put on. I'm not really talking about that particular, just so often that crazy land point. We're talking about most people that you see every day. Whether they're awakened or not, they don't even like any of the stuff. I mean, we could just say, all of the issues toward the twerking and the crazy things you see in schools with the books that they're putting on there. How many things can we come up with? Even so many things that these politicians are putting out there with the borders and everything else. I mean, that stuff just makes you go, what? I mean, who would like that? And that's why you're seeing more and more people come out against the establishment. You see, if we were in a circumstance where we were just screwed, that's what a lot of people say, the reality is they would not put it out this hard. They really wouldn't. They wouldn't show you the stupid. You see, the systems are not as broken as I think most people kind of understand, because those particular areas are not affecting us as much as you think. Why would I even say that? It's because while inflation is very difficult right now, they're taking out less and less in the IRS systems. We see them breaking down left and right, and they just can't restart their own engines. See, that their engines should be starting up with the Great Reset. It should have already happened in Biden's first time frame. But that's the key. It should have already happened by this point in time. We are easily into the late stages of his administration. And because he's in that late stages of administration, this should already be very deeply in the Great Reset. But even people who don't believe in NESARA and believe in the Great Reset know that we're not in the Great Reset points. They're talking about it, but they're not in it. We should be far, far into it. It wouldn't be just like a next term if you were thinking of it that way. So the reality is their narrative really is breaking down. We're seeing the crimes of Biden, but none with Trump. That's the part that kind of messes you up. You see this stuff, for instance, about Stormy Daniels, who has specifically stated that she wasn't paid by Trump. She didn't have a sexual relationship with him. And I mean, on multiple occasions, she said that. We also see Michael Cohen, who states that he paid her and they had a relationship. He didn't pay her. I mean, so Cohen didn't pay Stormy with Trump's knowledge, with campaign money. He took out a second in his house. I mean, this is outside of the realm. Now realize that Trump is one of those billionaires that has a lot of people working underneath him. How can he know every little thing that's going on? And I'm not trying to be a Trump apologist here, but there's no possible way that you would know when that kind of thing happens unless it was coming from your own campaign money. And that's why these cases don't make any sense. You got people like Fannie Willis who are just making stuff up, and she's sleeping with one of the prosecutors. I mean, you're just going, you got to be crazy on this whole thing. And yet we have objective and subjective information all about the Biden, where Biden has had boxes in his Corvette. And by the way, you saw the Corvette from the beginning. In the beginning of his campaign, you actually saw Corvette, and that's exactly where he had boxes from his vice presidency. And yet they're going after Trump. So when you see that dichotomy, that's part of the movie kind of capability there. And so you ask this question, why is Trump being prosecuted for these incredibly fake things? And this is the key I want you to see. Part of NESARA is about dealing with the court systems. They have been corrupted. They have been, and almost everyone, I don't care which side of the fence you come on, they know it's corrupted. I mean, it's kind of like talking about, referees in the NBA. When you look at if you're watching any of the series that are going on right now, the Denver versus Minnesota or New York versus, I can't remember, New York and Indiana. I mean, they're complaining on both sides of that fence, right? It's the same thing here. It doesn't matter where you're left or right. You complain about the court systems because they have been corrupt. They have not done anything correctly. And when you see the fake things that happens, that's part of the movie. That's the part that you look at and go, why are they talking about it? Because it's such a key element that we have to get these idiots back upon a constitutional nature. And they're already being exposed. So it's kind of like I'm showing you a movie so that you can kind of see this is just going on. And it's so obvious, even to the casual observer, that you go, wait a second, he's really guilty. And only the stupid don't really pay attention to it. They hear just bits and pieces of that. You see, the evidence is so severe against the cabal. We look at this, and whether you believe in NESARA, whether you don't, whether you have been awakened for a while or whether you've been awakened for a little bit of time, you see the evidence. It is so extreme. And that's why Executive Order 13818, which is the crimes against humanity that we're taking your money, which is what I talk about a lot of the time. And what Derek Johnson and I have talked about is the 13818, which is the crimes against humanity for that, the election, FRAUD portion. And so you're seeing the fraud points that are happening in our systems. And those two things, they start with the point of crimes against humanity. And when you realize how sick these people are, and it's really easy to look at the laptops of Hunter's laptop. We could go into Hillary's laptop. We could go into Wiener's laptop. I mean, these things are so significant, so extreme. It's because they've been doing it for such a long time frame. They just never believed they would get caught. And that is the element that you're seeing. So when you think you got enough information, whether you hated Trump or not, especially for those that kind of hate Trump or have heard that he's a bad person, when they'll see the opposite of like, you've got to be kidding me, and we were prosecuting Trump over here for something trumped up, to use the pun there. And I like to use this. The EBS is the key of this. The emergency broadcast signal, or the EAS, that's going to come out, and it's going to come out on your phones and everything. What's going to happen is that is what I call the beginning of wisdom. Now I'm using a catchphrase from the Bible, okay, where it says knowledge is the beginning of wisdom. The reality that we're looking at here is the EBS is that beginning phase, and people start to see the wisdom of what the military is doing. And they've been doing this for quite a while. And when they start to lay out the case on the child trafficking, on the election issues, and on the COVID areas, and by the way, there are a whole bunch of other things that need to happen, but I believe those are three areas that we need to focus on in the beginning phase to get us through. And when you start to see that, those levels of the initial phases that you're seeing on the screen right here is what we have to accomplish. Now, again, we go back into the crimes against humanity in Executive Order 13818. And this came out in late of 2017, or I think it was in December of 2017. And what that was trying to do is set up why we had to do it. But the key element that if you focus at all on this, and you want to have some evidence of NESARA, they were going to take their money. They were going to block their ability to get the money. This is all about a bankruptcy of criminals. You see, there are movies and television series, all about the mob, and you see them and they go to jail, but they still walk out with their money. There's a series called Reacher, and in the second season, it's an interesting series. In the second season, it's all about money laundering. And all of this can get fixed just like that when we flip the currency into its US note. When the Treasury sets the QFS and it's in a US note, the people have to turn in their currency. Now, you and I are going to have, $100 here, whatever that might be, and we'll go into the bank and we'll get it switched out. As a business owner, patients will pay, me with dollars. I'll just, write it into my systems. I actually have this a sync system from my database into QuickBooks, and I'll sync it in, and then I kind of print off this little deposit slip, right? And I'll just deposit it in, and no big deal, right? And it'll just go into the system. So even though it's US dollars, it'll go into US notes, 1-to-1. And so you'll see that kind of thing. But for them, now you're thinking this is a problem for you. This is not a problem at all. All of your systems are mirrored in the QFS, but the cash, the physical cash, is the portion that is not mirrored because, again, that's been out there. So when they bring it in, it's not the people that have $100 or $1,000 or $10,000. It's the people that have lived on cash for quite a long time frame. So after the EBS comes out and after we're into the NESARA thing and people are sort of getting the clue, and I'm talking about just a clue, now, you guys will get it, But the clue will come from the other side of this. And they start to bring in their money. What happens is they will bring in pallets of cash. Now they won't, walk it in there, but they will have it, they'll have appointments because they have to make appointments. You don't have to make appointments to do all this stuff. It's already going to be done for you on the QFS. And then you might just walk into your bank and just switch out the cash that you had in your refrigerator or wherever you keep it, right? But for them, they're going to have to make appointments and they're going to have background checks on them. This is the cool part of this. Now, this is the part we know for a fact because they're going to have background checks. And I don't care if they bring in their perfectly clean, spotlessly clean girlfriend, cousin, aunt, whomever that might be. That person is not going to pass muster because they're going to ask the question, where did you get the money? Now, this isn't really the cabal. These are the low-level thugs. And you might say, well, that's pretty big. If they have millions and millions. Yeah, there's a lot of people that they live on cash. And they're going to have to prove what they're doing with that money. And the reality is they can't prove why they've had millions and millions and millions stashed away. It wipes out so much crime that you can't imagine. We're also going to see this conversation as we switch up here. We're going to see this thing of an oath of office. You see, when you serve on a school board, you serve in the postal service, for instance, or you serve, for instance, even on a poll as a poll worker, and on up through mayors and all these different conversations of state senators, on and on. They have to have an oath of office that they swear to defend the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic. Now, there have actually been some really amazing research truthers who've gone through it and found that many of these people didn't do the oath of office. The reality is, I don't care. You fulfilled that position, and we know you didn't do the oath of office. And here's the thing. You did an office that you were never qualified for it. And you acted like you were doing the oath of office. See, that's just an arrestable offense right there. These people are in line for a treason you cannot imagine. Because treason always comes with death. You can't say, oh, well, you didn't mean to. These people, we have so much of that evidence. Many of you have seen it for a while, and you're jaded and you're pissed off because you haven't really seen that it comes through. Because, say, can the cabal get off? I mean, can they really get away with this? And many of us have said, well, yeah, I guess they are. I mean, and I hear this all the time, and I'm like, you think they are? You really believe that you have a functioning government if the real sickos get away with everything all the time? There's a despondency going on in America because of that. It's creating an absolute distrust and it's rising to the level of near civil war. That's why you're seeing people doing. Now, here's the real part. There are crazy things happening on streets. In the streets of New York and other major cities, there are men walking up to, whether it's black men or white men, but there are men walking up to women and punching them, slicing them, just doing absolutely nutty things. There's random acts of violence especially against white people in areas, and we're seeing this kind of thing, and they're videotaping it. Well, guess what? We can find that a good IT person can find that exact camera where it was uploaded. They just put themselves in line for finding everything about it. And with facial recognition, it's already in the ethosphere. And you think that the cabal is going to get away with it? There's a conversation called Gitmo, and just let me kind of explain this. It's in Guantanamo Bay in Cuba. Now, if you watch Jarek Johnson's stuff on Rattletrap 1776, he actually shows airplanes that are going down and picking up people. So there's, I mean, they're bringing down lawyers, they're dropping off people left and right. There's another prison in Honduras for the really bad ones. So what they will do is they'll fly them into Honduras, and then they also go out to Gitmo. And we think of Gitmo as just a whole bunch of the Iraqi prisoners that we did from the Iraqi war. That's what we did do, correct. But reality is, if you tried to go in there and actually see what is happening in GPS when you do, Google Earth, you're not even going to get to see an idea. It's actually expanded 4 and 5 times. And did you know there's 5 of these things? Now, I want to say one of the places, La Palma, it's off of the African coast. But there's these small places. You can't even fly the airplane into it. You have to fly airplane into the outer part of the island. You have to helicopter the people in. They're so remote of prisons, and there are about 5 or 6 of them, including one is purportedly in Greenland. So there's massive levels of this stuff going on. What you're going to see when you have treason is you have to have a death penalty sentence. I was watching a movie, and I don't remember where it was from. It's not really a relevant issue. It was talking about death row, and they were talking about the crimes that this one or these 2 kids had done. One of them had really done more of the murders. The other one said he didn't. They got the first kid, who didn't really say that he did murders, on 40 years. He definitely did. The other kid, claims that he's a Christian, but he never actually claims he did anything wrong. Okay, well, you did it all. The evidence was very severe, and all they were doing is they killed off 3 people because they wanted to get the car that the mother had. And throughout this whole movie documentary is that it was documentary, excuse me, sorry, is that they were saying, well, death penalty is just a bad thing. I just can't imagine it. If death penalty isn't on the table for this kind of thing, then what happens is you cheapen the lives that these people have taken. You really do. And that is why we're seeing the crime waves, and we're seeing this pendulum swing like never before. The pendulum is swinging over because crime isn't really taken very seriously, especially by this administration, but specifically about the Democrats. They hate to punish crime because that actually furthers their concepts. So they're soft on criminals all the time. Now, we even see Republicans are very soft on criminals too. But this crime wave is a direct relationship to the systems breaking down. And when they don't punish it, like with illegal aliens and other things, you see this difficulty that comes up. Some people will say, what about the FEMA camps? Aren't we supposed to be in those FEMA camps? And I go, no, those FEMA camps were made for the 200,000 sealed indictments. Yes, there are 200,000 sealed indictments. And that's not just people. We're talking about each one of these indictments could have hundreds and hundreds and thousands of people in it. There's a potential for 5 to 10 million of these total people that will be punished. And the best that they're going to hope for is to be in federal prison. There have been numerous reports, including I hear it in my house. I've been hearing it since 2020, is helicopters. Now, I moved into this particular house and it was 35 decibels, super quiet when I first moved in here in 2017. And then in 2020 and on, all I hear is helicopters at 2 in the morning, 3 and 4 in the morning. When I get up at 4 in the morning, that's when I kind of hear them. This is the perfect time for them to catch some of these idiots. And we're not even in a military zone. And I've talked to lots and lots and lots of people, and they're seeing and hearing the same kind of thing. They are capturing these morons. The reality is that once people see the EBS and what happens and the severity that comes with it, what you'll see that pendulum do is swing over, and it swings over to realize, wait a second, if I have an oath of office and I violate that oath of office, what will occur to me? I'm going to be swinging in Gitmo. If I go off and harm people like has been done in the past, at first people will be like, wait a second, what was really happening? This only got a slap on the wrist. And what many of you guys don't know, in 2020 there were numerous riots in the summer of 2020, and I've seen videos that are real videos that they would be coming back from these Portland riots. And there was, 3 people. One was a guy. They're walking down the street late at night, and there is a van that shows up, grabs the one guy, throws him in the van, and they already had the information. They're like, wait a second, what just happened? Many of these people have been pushed by the Soros Foundation, all these other foundations, to do this sicko stuff. And they're reporting is like, we used to get off with just a slap on the wrist. It's not happening that way. Now, I know you don't see it. I know you don't feel it, but you will feel it in the other end, because you've got to punish crime. You've got to deal with it in an effective way. If you don't punish that crime, you allow it to keep going. And I'm talking about real types of punishment. But once you see what they have done to the children, you have to deal with that. You have to cut that off, because it is a cancer, it is a sickness. And we're seeing levels of this twerking and all the dancing around little kids in strip bars. That kind of stuff will cease. You won't see it again. It's because they have been trying to break through. This is Satan trying to come through. And guys, you just need to be prayed up. You need to be prayed up, because what you're going to see is that swift change into that punishment phase. We're still seeing the crime. The punishment phase is coming. So, and that is a key part of it, because what we have to do is go after the top levels of that. You have to go after, from the military standpoint, the military's job is to support the Constitution, irregardless of who's in office. Do you get it? They have to go after SCOTUS. They have to go after all of the court systems. And they have to go after the lawyers and all the other ones that have kept this stuff going. And when that occurs, you will see a switch, and people will actually be terrified to do the wrong things. So I hope that gave you an idea and just a perception of what I believe is coming down the road, and just a thought process with that. Thanks so much.